And so the four that we featured this month were the dried Picpoul, the Viognier, the Nebbiolo, and the Carmenere. And so it's like kind of all over the place between the three of us. So I appreciated that you covered those four right at the beginning of your explanation, but certainly we didn't taste a wine we didn't like when we were at Tanjuli. And so I was going to ask you to expand on those wines, but you really talked about all of them. I don't know if there's any more you want to say about those four. If you have something you want to add.
Well, on the Picpoul Blanc, start there. It's a grape in France. The name roughly translates to lip stinger because, and again, that reputation because of its high acidity. So it's a grape that is very prolific. It's also used in the cognac region of France to produce cognac because it can be a very heavy producer if you allow it to. In the type of vineyard system I have, you could theoretically produce probably 12 tons an acre of these big white clusters of grape. But I again say to get the concentrated flavor, I keep it down to about 2 tons an acre. I found that in order to balance out that acidity, you have to keep just a hint of sweetness in there. So the wines I've made so far, I've made kind of a semi-sweet style. I have the dry style you're currently showing people. And then I've been experimenting with some other dry styles as well. So in the future, we'll have a totally dry version because that year we were able to get the grapes ripe enough to balance out that high acidity. And then also add just a whisper of oak to it, just to give it another interesting nuance. A very satisfying wine with the seafood. I tend to think of it as being analogous to a Sauvignon Blanc, but a little more tart, a little more on the citrus side, much more of a lemon character rather than grapefruit or the other tropical characters you tend to get in Sauvignon Blancs. Our Viognier is a very concentrated flavor in that, so it ends up bringing in more of the stone fruit and melon qualities in the Viognier. Carmenere, as I mentioned, is a happy-go-lucky grape in our vineyards. Does very well. Has that very nice kind of black pepperiness in with a very smooth tannin profile. So it just makes a wonderful Bordeaux-style wine. And then the Nebbiolo is a very complex grape. It presents all forms of flavors. You find that you can get different mineral qualities to it, different earth qualities to it, different fruit qualities to it, different floral characteristics. The color on it is on Nebbiolos tends to throw people off. They expect big reds to have big color. Nebbiolos in general don't do that. They remind you a little bit more of a Pinot Noir until you taste them, and then all of a sudden you're hit with that massive wave of tannins and flavors. And therefore they require extended aging. Currently I age in neutral oak for about 3 or more years, just to get them to calm down. And typically Nebbiolos are very long-lived. It's in Italy, they're usually won't even start opening the bottles until they're 5 or 6 years old, and they prefer to go a decade or more before they start getting into their collections. But we don't quite have any that old yet, but we have a few in our library that are from our first vintage was 2012. So we're approaching that stage, and we hope in the future to release some vertical tastings of the Nebbiolo to let people follow how it develops, because it does make a very stunning wine.
That'll be fun. I think we'll be up for that.